Many people waste their strength fighting people with their own hands. But today I share a hidden truth with you. You don't have to lift a single finger to win a battle. There is a spiritual weapon already sitting quietly in your kitchen, something so common that most people ignore it. Yet in the spiritual world, it shakes the camp of darkness and forces your enemies to cry for mercy. That weapon is salt, not only as a seasoning for food, but as a divine sign of purity, preservation, and covenant. The mistake so many people make is believing that the battles of life are fought with arguments, fists, and revenge. But the truth is deeper. Life is spiritual, and victories come by knowing spiritual laws. When you fight using your own power, you end up tired, bitter, and defeated. But when you allow God to work through his signs, you stay at peace while your enemies scatter in confusion. Salt is one of those heavenly signs that darkness fears. Salt has always stood for preservation. When you sprinkle it in faith, you're not simply dropping grains on the ground. You're putting in place a barrier that evil spirits cannot pass. The wicked may come together against you, but when the covenant of salt speaks, their weapons turn on them. It is a quiet action in the physical, but a loud thunder in the spirit that shakes their foundation. Think about this. Instead of planning revenge on those who have harmed you, instead of wasting tears on betrayals, you rise at midnight, take ordinary salt in your hand, and speak with power. By this covenant of salt, I reject every curse, I block every evil, I send every wicked arrow back to the sender. Do you know what happens? Those who planned your downfall begin to trip over their own traps. Enemies gain power when you fight them in the flesh because that is their ground. But when you use spiritual methods like salt, you move the fight into the territory of God's authority. This is why the direction is simple. Don't fight your enemies with your hands. Use salt and watch them beg for mercy. They will not understand why their plans against you keep failing, why their curses turn into blessings for you, and why their meetings break apart into nothing. Salt has no respect for witches, demons, or curses. When it has been prayed over and declared a weapon of light, it changes the atmosphere around you. Darkness hates purity, and salt is purity in a physical form. That is why witches cannot stand it when a believer seals their home with salt. They see it as a shield of fire, a barrier that blocks their entry. This is why you must pay close attention. The weapon you need is already within your reach. You don't have to buy charms. You don't have to beg anyone for deliverance. You don't have to spend huge sums on strange rituals. With prayer, faith, and salt, your house can be untouchable. Your life can be preserved, and your enemies will have no choice but to surrender. When most people hear about salt, they think only of cooking, but spiritually it is far more. Salt carries the secret of covenant. In ancient days, when two people made an agreement, they would share salt as a sign that the deal could not be broken. In the same way, when you use salt with faith in God, you stand on a covenant of protection that no witchcraft, envy, or evil eye can break. It becomes a spiritual shield that cannot be compromised. Salt also shows preservation. Just as it stops food from decaying, it stops your life from being wasted by enemies. The enemy may set traps for your job, your health, or your family. But when you use salt spiritually, it halts the destruction of your destiny. Every scheme planned to spoil your name, destroy your progress, or ruin your opportunities is blocked. Salt declares, you will not rot. You will not be wasted. Your blessings are preserved. Another secret of salt is its power to cleanse. It purifies water, cleans wounds, and even cleans the atmosphere. This is why when you scatter salt in your house after prayer, You are not just throwing grains, you are spiritually cleaning your space. The hidden demons that lurk in dark corners cannot endure that purity. It flushes them out and makes your house a dwelling of peace. Those who once had access suddenly find the door closed. Salt also speaks of worth. In old times, salt was so valuable that people used it as money. Spiritually, this means that when you use salt with intention, you are declaring your value before God and man. Those who try to belittle you, insult you, or treat you as worthless will suddenly be forced to see your worth. They will bow in shame as your life rises, because salt lifts your spiritual value to a place where it cannot be trampled. Now, why does salt trouble your enemies so much? Because they feed on corruption, decay, and impurity. Witchcraft grows in filth. Evil spirits dwell in unclean places. Curses thrive where there is weakness. But when salt enters the atmosphere, all these are neutralized. Their power is cut off at its roots. It is like pouring light into darkness. The darkness cannot argue. It must leave. Understand this clearly. You don't need complicated rituals to see results. Take salt in your hand, speak your words with power, and sprinkle it with faith. It is not about how much salt you use, but about the authority behind your words. Even a pinch of salt in the right place, spoken over with the right declaration, becomes a sword in the spirit that cuts down your enemies without you striking them. Enemies will be confused why they suddenly cannot reach you. They will sit together, plan against you, but every scheme will fail. Their curses will return to their own doors. Their jealousy will burn them from within, and their wickedness will turn into confusion. Why? Because salt has placed a divine shield around you, and God Himself honors the covenant of salt. This is why you must never look down on something small. The devil fears small, powerful symbols that God uses to surprise the wise. Just as David used a stone to defeat Goliath, you can use salt to bring down the giants of witchcraft and oppression in your life. The world may laugh at you for using something so ordinary, but the same people will wonder when they see your enemies crying for mercy while you stand safe and victorious. One of the strongest ways to use salt spiritually is at your doorway. The doorway is not only a physical entry to your home, it is a spiritual gate. Many attacks come through gates. Whether the front door of your house, the gate of your yard, or even the unseen gates of your life. When you scatter salt at your doorway after prayer, you are declaring that no evil, no curse, and no enemy can pass. The moment they try, the covenant of preservation strikes them and their feet stumble before entry. Think of how many times you welcome someone into your home only to notice bad luck, quarrels, or strange sickness follow. Sometimes it is not the person, but the spirit behind them. This is why sealing your doorway with salt sends a direct message to the spirit world. This house is closed to darkness. No curse shall enter here. No witchcraft shall cross this line. It is a small action, but in the spiritual realm, it is like building a wall of fire around your house. Another simple use is in the corners of your home. Dark powers like to hide in corners, dark spots, and neglected places. That is why arguments rise in homes, children become rebellious, or strange shadows move at night. But when you take salt and scatter it prayerfully into the corners of your house, you are spiritually cleaning the hiding places of evil. They will have no resting place, and they will flee. The peace that follows will amaze you because your home will begin to carry the scent of divine purity. Salt can also be used in water for cleansing. When you dissolve salt in a basin of water and pray over it, that water becomes a spiritual cleaner. Wash your hands, your face, or sprinkle the water lightly around your room, and you declare purification over your body and your surroundings. Every curse of delay, every spirit of rejection, every chain of stagnation is broken when you cleanse with salt. You start to see doors of opportunity opening because your atmosphere has been purified. Another way is the use of salt in prayer circles. Take a handful of salt, draw a circle around your prayer area, and declare that as you pray, no dark spirit may cross that line. You will feel a stronger power in your prayers because you have placed a barrier that blocks distractions and evil interference. In that circle, your prayer becomes fire and your words rise without hindrance. The enemy has no option but to run because the purity of salt suffocates their power. Those who once had easy access to your life will suddenly feel locked out. The moment those arrows hit the barrier of salt, they do not pierce through but bounce back to the sender with force. That is why many who practice witchcraft often end up crying for mercy when believers apply salt prayerfully, because the curses they launched return multiplied, leaving them confused, weakened, and exposed. This is not superstition, but deep spiritual understanding. God delights in using simple things to dismantle complex powers. Just like he used the rod of Moses to part the Red Sea, salt in your hands becomes more than mere grains. It becomes a spiritual line of separation, a divider that cuts you off from evil and cuts evil off from you. It is a covenant tool that silences the loud noise of your enemies and restores calm and stability to your household. Witchcraft thrives in secrecy, feeding on shadows and on fear, but salt exposes it and destroys it quickly. When a witch releases an arrow at you, they expect to find a weak opening to exploit. But when salt has been used with prayer, every opening is sealed. Their arrows strike a wall and bounce back to them with full force. That is why salt makes witches cry for mercy, because the very curses they released are the ones striking them. What was designed to break you becomes their own breaking. There are countless testimonies of people who lived under heavy oppression until they discovered the covenant power of salt. Nightmares ceased. Financial barriers were lifted. Mysterious sicknesses vanished simply because they prayerfully sealed their homes with salt. The enemy hates purity and preservation, and salt carries both. It draws an invisible border that the wicked cannot pass, and if they dare to cross, they end up trapped in their own snares. This is why Scripture itself calls believers the salt of the earth. Salt carries authority in both the natural and spiritual dimensions. Sealing your home with salt is one of the most effective methods of spiritual warfare. You do not have to scream or strive. Just walk around your home quietly at midnight. Sprinkle salt at doors, windows, and gates, declaring, "This house is sealed under the covenant of salt. No curse, no witchcraft, no dark power shall pass here." As you do this, you draw a circle of preservation that cannot be broken. Evil forces will see your home glowing in the unseen realm and will retreat in fear. Curses cannot endure the purity of salt. A curse feeds on impurity and decay, but salt neutralizes it. When someone speaks a curse over you, hold salt in your hands and declare, "This curse is powerless, I am preserved." Wash your hands with salty water and sense the heaviness lifting off you. That curse loses its grip over your destiny. Instead of carrying burdens spoken by others, you carry blessings preserved by God's covenant. Salt can also be poured on paths or crossroads where you sense a dark heaviness. Many witches build traps at such points, but when salt is poured prayerfully, their systems collapse. Their altars lose strength because the purity of salt confuses their charms. They will gather to renew their spells, but find their influence drained. It is not you fighting them, but the covenant of salt fighting on your behalf. Salt also shatters generational curses. Families plagued by repeated poverty, strange sicknesses, or premature death can rise by using salt with prayer. When you hold salt and declare, "This cycle ends here," you mark the end of that destructive pattern. The curse cannot cross the covenant line of salt. From that day forward, your bloodline begins to experience freedom, and those enforcing the curse begin to lose their hold and cry for mercy. Enemies do not cry because you lifted your hand to harm them. They cry because spiritual law has turned against them. Salt is not revenge, it is justice. It returns every arrow, every curse, every wicked plan back to where it came from. When the wicked taste the fruit of their own works, they are forced to confess that you are untouchable. Many people assume salt by itself carries power. But the truth is deeper. Salt is a symbol, a physical point of contact with meaning in the unseen world. Without faith, it remains seasoning. But when words of faith and authority are spoken over it, that salt turns into a weapon of light that heaven acknowledges and darkness dreads. It is not superstition. It is the revelation that God uses simple things to confound the proud. When you take salt into your hands and pray, you are not just holding grains. You are holding a covenant. You are declaring, "My life is preserved. My destiny is purified. My family is sealed." This understanding gives the act its force. Demons do not flee because they see salt. They flee because of the faith-filled declaration made through it. That is why some use salt and see nothing, while others see breakthroughs instantly. The difference is awakening, understanding the authority behind your action. This is where reflection becomes vital. Ask yourself, am I still fighting people? Am I draining myself with bitterness and revenge? Or have I matured to see my battles as spiritual, needing spiritual weapons? Salt awakens you to that truth. It shifts your perspective from human quarrels to confronting the real enemy behind the scenes. It opens your eyes to see that your victory is not by your hand, but by God's covenant. You begin to live with a peace others cannot explain. People may ask, "Why don't you fight back? Why don't you curse those who curse you?" And your reply becomes simple: "I do not need to fight. My covenant fights for me." This is awakening. Salt brings confidence that your life is sealed, that you are untouchable, and that no matter who conspires against you, they will scatter. It lifts you above petty struggles and sets you on a higher ground of victory. Salt also teaches humility. Imagine holding something so ordinary, so cheap, yet so powerful in the spirit. It reminds you that God does not need grand things to bring deliverance. He can use the ordinary to produce extraordinary results. Never despise small things. Your awakening happens when you realize that the greatest battles of your life can be won with the smallest tools if God's hand is on them. As you embrace this truth, you start to see salt as a daily reminder of who you are. You are preserved, you are purified, you are valuable, you are untouchable. Salt is not only for times of warfare, it reflects your identity. And once you walk in that identity, your enemies sense it. They will try to oppose you but end up failing. They will attempt to curse you but end up blessing you, all because you awaken to the truth that you are salt, and wherever you stand, corruption cannot stay. This is why reflection matters. It is not about scattering salt blindly. It is about aligning your spirit with God's truth, so that when you act with authority. That authority is what makes enemies cry for mercy, because they realize they are no longer battling you, but the covenant that shields you. Now that you understand the covenant of salt, it is time to put it into action. Do not wait until your enemies strike before you move. Take salt in your hand tonight and declare your victory. Go to a quiet place, preferably at midnight when spiritual activity is strongest, and hold a handful of salt. Lift it and pray. By this salt I declare my life preserved, my home sealed, and my enemies defeated. As these words leave your mouth, the salt in your hand becomes fire in the unseen realm. Begin by sealing your doorway. Sprinkle salt at the entrance, saying, "No curse shall cross this threshold. No witchcraft shall pass here. No demon shall step foot in this home." As you speak, heaven confirms it. You are not speaking into empty air, but into the spiritual realm. Your salt becomes a wall of fire that no evil can pass. Sleep with confidence, knowing angels stand guard at your doors. Next, walk to the corners of your home. Sprinkle salt in every hidden place and declare, "I cleanse this house of all darkness. I cast out every spirit of strife, sickness, and fear. This home shall overflow with light, peace, and prosperity." As you speak, the atmosphere shifts. The heavy presence you once felt dissolves. Strange noises cease, and the peace of God rests upon you. You can also wash your hands with salty water while declaring, "Every curse of delay, rejection, and stagnation is broken from my life. My hands shall prosper, my work shall be blessed, my destiny shall shine." As the water flows off your hands, imagine every chain snapping, every evil link cut, and every blockage dissolving. You rise with a fresh aura that attracts blessings instead of attacks. Finally, raise the last portion of salt and make your warfare declaration. Every arrow sent against me returns to its sender. Every curse spoken over my life is broken. Every dark plot collapses before it reaches me. Backfire. Every work of witchcraft collapses now. I am untouchable. My home is protected and my life is sealed in victory. As you declare this, you activate the law of return. Those who plotted your downfall will fall into their own traps. Those who cursed you will taste the harvest of their own words. Enemies will wake up in confusion, wondering why their power no longer functions. Some will confess, others will avoid you, and some will cry for mercy because what they sent against you has turned back upon them. And you, without lifting a hand against them, will walk in peace preserved by the covenant of salt. This is the power of the final activation. Silent but deadly, simple but unstoppable, humble but victorious. Now that you have learned the mystery of salt, do not hide it. The greatest mistake you can make is to hear wisdom and never use it. Take this step today. Pick up salt from your kitchen, lift it in prayer, and watch how God fights for you. You will begin to see strange battles end. Hidden enemies will reveal themselves, and curses will shatter like glass. What others have tried to achieve with endless struggle, you will achieve with a simple act of faith. Do not underestimate what appears ordinary. The kingdom of darkness laughs when you fight in the flesh, but they tremble when you use spiritual principles. Salt is one of these principles. They know once you activate it with authority, their access is blocked, their arrows are neutralized, and their schemes collapse. They can only cry for mercy because their plans have turned against them. This is why you must act quickly, because delay gives the enemy time, but obedience brings you victory. I urge you to try this and then return with your testimony. Share what you experienced after sealing your door with salt, after washing your hands with salt water, after making that midnight declaration. Many will doubt until they hear your story, and your testimony will open their eyes. When you speak of peace where there was once confusion, of breakthroughs where there was once delay, of freedom where there was once bondage, others will see the power of this covenant. Remember, this is not magic and it is not superstition. It is faith. Salt is a symbol, but the real power comes from God. Do not trust in the salt itself. Trust in the God who honors the covenant behind it. As you act, invite His presence, speak His authority, and declare His promises. That is what makes the difference. Without Him, salt is only seasoning. With Him, it becomes a sword of victory. So tonight, rise up with boldness. Take your salt, pray with fire, and watch your enemies cry for mercy. And when you see the results, do not keep them to yourself. Share this message with your family, your friends, your community. Spread the light so that others who are oppressed can also find freedom. Let this message become a movement of salt warriors, people who refuse to fight in the flesh but win every battle in the spirit. Finally, stay connected. Do not just watch and forget. Watch again until it settles into your spirit. Pray with it, practice it, and share it. Subscribe, comment with your testimonies, and stand with this family of believers who know that the battle belongs to God. Your victory is already sealed. Never fight your enemies directly. Just use salt this way and watch them cry for mercy. And as you take this step of faith, remember that you are never alone on this journey. You are part of a family that fights battles in the Spirit and walks in divine victory. Every testimony you share becomes a weapon that strengthens another soul. This is Maya's watchtower where truth is revealed, where light exposes darkness, and where wisdom awakens restoration.